Let me briefly tell you what's happening in MMA. Before that, you all know MMA Award for Managerial Excellence. That is presented during our AGM, and we cover 4 categories, that is manufacturing, services, SMEs and educational institution. The letter has already been sent to all the members. The idea is, please do recommend some of the leading companies whom you think should be recognized for this award. So that the name comes, there's a process. Deloitte is the process consultant for this award. We'll be more than happy to connect with them and invite them to take part in the award process. And this mail has been sent to you. We also made a nice video about the award and shared with you, so that it's easy for you to just forward it to your friends and some of the industries, SMEs, educational institutions, or even services industry, manufacturing. They can join them. This award is open to all the institutions registered and located in entire South India. That means Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. So idea is to cover as many people. So please, we really request for indulgence and share your names. You know, so many companies who are doing very well. Similarly, viewers who are watching this program live, please do share your thing. You just SMS to us the name of the company. Our team will take it forward. Then events, what's happening, like tomorrow, 21st April, we have Influence, the Psychology, Persuasion, Read and Grow series. We have 3 outstanding panelists. You must come. They're all the 3 of them are exceedingly good. Srinivasan Ram Prasad is a CAT Center Director. Praveen Shankar is the Chairman and CEO of Kriya. Then also we have Kripa Shankar, who is a Breed Digital. So they are going to be discussing on this. On 5th May, we have Ati Kelshekar is on the theme How Women Work, Fitting in and Standing Out in Asia. We have 2 very good panelists. Neena Gadgal is the President and SEO of Carbon Universal, and Devasana Ravishankar is the Global Head of Cognitive and Business Operations from TCS. Then we have Monday, 8th of May, we have a joint program with Fiki Flow, where Suresh Sambandam, founder of Kiss Flow, is going to be talking to us on his story of entrepreneurship and journey. And this is happening on 8th May. Then on 11th May, we have event on how to make India water resilient. Nowadays seminar is being under compile. We'll shortly share with you details. 15th May, Policy Matters. We are doing the event on foreign trade in Indian rupees, reach and outreach. The idea is how convertibility of Indian rupee is going to work. Is it to India's advantage? What India can do? So many things we'll be discussing on this. On 17th May, it's all about branding. The golden ladder, rise to be unstoppable. And this again, we have Vijay Parsadi, we got some outstanding brand. We are also like to get global head of Johnson Johnson joining us from Singapore. So this is the event again, it'll be very good. Then on Friday again, we have even on Read and Grow. 24th of May, we have Company We Keep. This is Divya Kannan going to be talking to us. Then June, we have also very good event with Gold Quest and number of other events already finalized. On the 7th of July, we have the MMA AGM. Please do block your diary and join us. Coming to today's event, we are indeed privileged and happy to share that this event is being done jointly with TAI. TAI Chennai joined as a partner. All the members are there. And many people, I think the weather is so good for them to really come out of their house, the comfort of air conditioning, they are watching. All those who are watching for your own comfort, a very warm welcome to you. As usual, if you have any questions, there is a number flashed on your screen. Please send it across. We'll be delighted to place it before the speaker. The speaker has kindly agreed. He has given more time for the Q&A session. He has agreed to respond to all your questions. People who are here in the auditorium, here you have got a QR code put in front of your seat. All that you have to just scan it and type the question sent across. It comes to us. We'll compile them and put it. Idea is we don't want to waste so much of time. When I hand over the mic, everybody takes some time to come to the questions. By the time we could have asked 2 questions actually. That's the idea. We put a QR code. The system has been working very effectively for the last few days. Just try it out today, and I really appreciate your cooperation. Send your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, end of life planning. Name itself suggested, ensuring that your wishes, desire, likes and preferences and values are honored in your absence. It's a very tricky subject, difficult subject. We really very keen, as much as you are keen, to listen to the speaker who is going to be really sharing his insight. He's very experienced in this field and done quite a bit. I'll be a little later introducing himself. Put your hand together to welcome the speaker for this evening, Mr. Vish Viswanathan, is CEO, Anikode Management Consultant. And to chair the session, we have Mr. Shankar, Vice President MMA and founder of CAMS. May I request Shankar and Mr. Vish to take your place on the dais. Before I call upon Shankar to take the things forward, let me have the privilege of introducing Vish Viswanathan. He is CEO of Anikode Management Consultants. Vish is a seasoned global executive with over 35 years of records of accomplishments in successful business leadership in United States and Asia. Transport hospitality is a sector we really did exceedingly well, and currently he is the CEO of Anikode Anikode Management Consultants, strategy consulting boutique based in Dallas, US, in Chennai, and India. He was a senior global advisor to the board of directors of Amadeus and the largest travel solution and distribution company in the world, located in Madrid. And Vish is also elected member of the TAI board, and that's a program we are doing jointly with TAI today. And he's a member of the advisory board in several startup companies in US and India, actively mentoring young entrepreneurs. He's an active member of Alumni Association of College of Engineering, Gindi, and master degrees of operational research, advanced analytical course. And there's quite a bit of work in Gindi, wherein he does some initiative where he bring in all the old alumni who have done exceedingly well around the world and bring them to come and speak, share their insights. That really inspires the large number of students to see some of the students who studied in the same institution doing so well around the world, and one day they will also do well. And one unique thing about Mr. Vish is he has obtained his postgraduate degree in psychology, counseling, and psychotherapy from Symbiosis University, and practicing professional of counseling, and is a C-level business suits. He's taking them and is also helped startup and founders. He did just few years back his MBA. So age is not a limit. You can do if you would like to do studies at any time. And one thing which is not put is also alumnus of PSA school. So PSA school, Mylapore student. So good to have you with us, Vish. It's a privilege to have you with us. Let me have the privilege of introducing Mr. Shankar. You all know Shankar is Vice President, founder of CAMS, and Director of ACSYS Investment Private Limited. He is also a graduate from IMC and a graduate who worked briefly, then went on to found CAMS. He is involved in several organizations and promote entrepreneurship as well as both his alma mater. And Shankar is the Vice President, and we do a lot of work together. He is very passionate about excellence, and we do process-oriented. We do a lot of work together, and which brings the MMA to benchmark ourselves to higher pedestals, and we try and achieve that. Now, over to Shankar to set the context and introduce the speaker. Thank
you. Welcome, Vish. Thank you for agreeing to speak here. We have introduced Vish. Vijay has done that, but I want to introduce the topic. See, this topic is actually extremely important to each of us, but it's one of those things we don't like to talk about it, perhaps. There is not a body of knowledge about it. And if you really want good professional advice, you have to pay a ton for it. You'll go to a professional firm or a law firm. They'll write out a will for you. They'll write out a succession plan for you, and you'll pay through your nose for it. For the younger people in the audience, the older people, of course, the attraction is very clear, right? We are at the stage where we have to plan. But for the younger people, I think it's important for them to get their parents to plan, because it is in their own interest to make sure that things are orderly for them when they step into the shoes of their parents at some point in life. So, more than the people here, I have had requests from so many of my groups when I first circulated this invite that the YouTube link should be passed on to them. So, of course, the YouTube link will be available on MMA's YouTube site and on MMA's site itself. As I said, I cannot overstate the importance of this subject. Thanks, Vish, for bringing this to us. And over to you.
This one, sir.
Yeah, sure. Okay, good evening. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to present to all of you. I want to start with saying that this is not going to be an exciting or entertaining topic. It's going to be a fairly serious topic. I am not used to doing serious topic discussions at all. but I'm going to try my best not to be excited or not to be entertained with this. This is a very important topic. I want to start by saying why I'm doing this, because I'm not by any means an expert in this topic, but this is something that was born out of necessity. Over the last 3 to 4 years, I had the misfortune of actually having to experience many of my friends, both in India as well as in the US, who passed away rather abruptly. Can you hear me well? Hope we can. Of course. It's lower or higher? It's lower. Huh?
Check.
I had to speak louder, you're saying? I never heard that before. I had never heard that request before. Anyway, so as I said, in the last 3 to 4 years, I had the misfortune of actually being involved in helping people who passed away rather suddenly, various reasons, some because of health issues, undetected, undiagnosed, untreated health issues, and in some cases accidents, in some cases other reasons as well. And what happens in all these cases, I noticed is that, I'm talking about a half a dozen people I know very well who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s. And in every single case, I noticed that the people who were dealing with the grief and misery of the loss of the loved ones had no idea about the person who they lived with for a long time. They had no idea what the person was doing, what the person was worth, what he has done, what assets he has, what liabilities he has. They had no idea. And in every single case, I can tell you, it takes months and some cases years for these people to go back and reconstruct the life of the person who they just lost to understand what they're doing. It is not just about financial matters. Lots of things, all of us here, I can tell you, all of us here are walking around with lots of information about ourselves in our own heads, which nobody else knows. And it is stunning when you actually go through the process of helping people who are going through this problem, you recognize that that is so much information that even we ourselves probably don't remember about our own antecedents actually. So this whole presentation was planned to ensure, I made a resolution in the last event happened on January 8th, 2023, less than 3 months ago. I made a resolution that I'm not going to have anyone suffer this sort of problems anymore. So I'm going to make it a mission to create awareness about end-of-life planning so people can plan around it and ensure that their own wishes and desires and preferences and values are maintained or at least known and executed by their loved ones in their absence. So as I said, it's not going to be a very entertaining topic, but it's a very important topic, and it applies to people of all ages. It's not just for only older people, it's for older people, younger people, because in these day and age, unfortunately, no one's life is guaranteed, and things happen beyond our control, and it is very important for us to ensure that the people who are going to be left after we leave the earth at least have something to go with and not add to the misery already in. Okay? So with that, thank you. So before I start, I want to give a disclaimer because I did this presentation initially for folks in the US. I don't know how about in the US. In the US, if you say anything, you have to have disclaimers for everything. Otherwise, they'll sue you for that. So I said, I am not a lawyer. I am not a financial advisor. I am not a tax professional. I am not an insurance agent. I am not an estate planner. I am not an employee of any government. Anything else I missed? I don't know. I'm a human being though, definitely. So I want to put this disclaimer because it's very important to make sure that all I'm giving here is my own experience helping people going through this problem. And along the way, while helping these people, we also had to deal with and work with some of these professionals. So what I'm giving here is kind of a consolidated view of all those things we have done. By no means what I say here is the end all be all of it. It's only what we have observed with my experience so far. So take that as a beginning point and continue with that. And again, before I start, I want to ask you, how many of you actually have thought about end-of-life planning? Just a show of hands. Okay. How many of you have done anything about it? So you're in the right place, clearly. Definitely in the right place. So just a few things about my background. I think the captain has already read that. What I want to specifically focus on is my last bullet point. 2 years ago, I decided to make a career change and went back to school full-time to do a postgraduate degree in psychology. I was so fascinated with psychology field that after seeing people go through difficulty, I said, I want to do the rest of my life doing psychological counseling. So I got a degree in psychology and specialized in helping people who are C-level executives. Management MMA is a very good place to talk about that. C-level executives and startup founders. These people, C-level executives and startup founders, have a very unique kind of stress, which is not very commonly known because these people are at the very top. And tell me, I was in the position a long time back with my companies. It's very lonely at the top. Everything comes to you. You are the buck stops there. And so you have to deal with kind of stresses that ordinarily you don't see people dealing with. And so I decided to focus on that. So that's one thing I want to focus in my resume. I would like to request all of you that if any one of you or anyone you know who has a mental health challenge, it is perfectly fine and okay to seek help. Not seeking help is not very smart. You don't have to live with all kinds of stresses in life. There are lots of very good ways of dealing with it. I would request all of you, leave the stigma. There is no stigma involved in that. Come forward. I or some professional like me would be happy to help you. Okay? Further my degrees. I also say I'm an amateur marathon runner. People ask me like, how could you do that? I said, I just decided to do that. And after about 50 years, I'll start running and organic farming. The other information sharing sessions I have done, I have this habit of doing a lot of information sessions. Whatever issue or whatever topic that I am trying to learn and do for myself, I create a webinar out of that. I do this for people all over the world. None of my seminars cost anything. I do it for free because I want it as a service to society. So you can see the list of topics I've done here. Any of this interests you, we can obviously help you with that as well. And some guidelines for this session before I start. Please stay muted for those who are online. The entire session is recorded, I presume, right? Online as well as recorded. During the Q&A session, which I'll open up very soon, please unmute online people to ask the question, or people here can ask the questions. Please do ask questions. I don't want this to be a monologue. I want this to be a dialogue. If you don't ask questions, then I will ask you questions. So it's your choice whether to ask the questions to me. Soft copy of the presentation will be provided. I'll give it to Captain to distribute it. You can have a copy of that. And there is no fee to attend this seminar. So let's go into the topic. What is end-of-life planning? Basically, it's a planning for what you wish to happen when you leave this world. Now, two things are certain in the world. Taxes and death are certain in the world. So you want to make sure you do record and document everything that you want to see happen when you are not there in this world. So planning for what you wish to happen when you leave this world, leaving instruction on how you wish to be cared, not only when you are actually left the world, before leaving this world. If unfortunately you're in a situation of a medical situation, then you also want to leave instructions. There are very many legally correct formalities available to do this. In the absence of that, in many countries, including India, people cannot make decisions on your behalf. So if you want yourself treated a certain way or cared for a certain way, it's better to say it explicitly in writing through certain procedures. And I'll go through some of the examples very soon. The end-of-life planning can actually be a combination of a folder, physical folder, binder, spreadsheet, documents, whichever you're comfortable with. Some people are very good at digitally documenting it, some are more physically documenting it. Could be a combination of all of them. Your trusted family members, your spouse, your children, your siblings, etc., or a trusted friend or relative should know where you kept that. Now, documenting and doing all this work is great, but if you don't tell where it is, I'll tell you examples of where this happened before. Recently, there is an example of someone, we couldn't find the person's Aadhaar card. And without Aadhaar card, without a proper identification, you cannot even cremate a person in this country. So simple things like this, you need to make sure somebody knows where you have all the information. Documenting and all this is great, but make sure someone knows where it is. You should keep duplicate copies, one hard copy and one soft copy, both. Because soft copy, another example recently, a person had everything in a soft copy, we did not know the password for his computer. So it's as good as not having the information. So have one soft copy and one hard copy. It is not a good idea to keep it online because the amount of information you're going to keep in these documents is extremely personal and extremely confidential. So you don't want to keep it online. I would advise you not to keep it online and keep it somewhere which is safe and secure. Why is it important? Why should we care to do this thing? I think it's a moral responsibility. Now, when you're going to leave this world, your family is already going to be in grief and sadness. You don't want to aggravate that by keeping them clueless. I've seen this personally, and I tell you, it's incredibly agonizing to see people not knowing what to do, where to start at this stage in life. And you don't want to aggravate their sadness and grief by making it uncertain as well. So I think it's a moral responsibility for your family. if you do care about your family, your wife, your spouse, your children, etc., you need to do this thing. So they know everything about you, your assets, your liabilities, and other details in your absence. This can at least help mitigate, it cannot eliminate the pain, at least mitigate the pain that your loved ones will go through in terms of sadness and grief. And third, more importantly, you don't want your loved ones to be guessing or making decisions on your behalf that you may or may not want to have. So it's very important, you do not have to make difficult decisions or guesses regarding your assets, your health, your preferences, etc., all that. And ensure that family members are not lost knowing where they stand financially. I've seen many cases where very well educated people, I'm talking about women and men actually, educated women who are working women have no idea about their family's financial position. Now it is quite sad and quite surprising that people don't want to know. There is this myth in society in general and more so in our society that women don't want to talk about their financial position or they don't want to know what their husbands are doing. I find it incredibly strange that in this day and age, when people want to know everything, they don't do that. And this is not one example. In every single example I've gone through, the spouses have absolutely no idea about the financial standing. And that's quite shocking. Other point is to eliminate any disputes. When you have any amount of value and wealth left with you when you leave this world, invariably money attracts problems, unfortunately. So you don't want to have people squabbling or fighting over your assets, and you could avoid all that very well by making sure you document how you want your assets to be treated and help you organize and keep all your documents in time. So it's basically a process. What it takes about 3 to 4 weeks worth of work can save tremendous amount of pain and grief and months and years to resolve. One of the examples of my friend who passed away in Washington, D.C. last year, we still haven't resolved more than half of the problem. That's how difficult it is, right? So if you look at the various categories of information that you need to document about yourself to make sure people have it, I put that under 13 different categories. These are the number of categories of information that all of us are running around holding about ourselves that we don't tell others. And what I'm going to do in the next few slides till the very end is run through, it's sort of like a checklist. So I'm not going to spend much time going through every single bullet. What I would like to do instead is in every slide I will tell you points where I want to emphasize the importance based on anecdotal evidence I faced helping people. Okay? So personal information, simple things, last name, legal name. It's very important for people to know what your legal name is. I tell you, many of us have very different names. One name in the passport, one name in your Aadhaar card, one name in PAN card. It is very important after you leave someone to know what your legal name is. So make sure that you write whatever name you go by as legal name in a document. So legal name, birth certificate, etc., all that. PAN card, Aadhaar card. As I said, Aadhaar card is very important because in this country, when you die and somebody has to cremate you, you need to provide the identification of the person who died. Without that, you can't even do cremation in this country. So be very careful to make sure those information is maintained somewhere, that in your absence, your spouse or your child or whoever is taking care of you will be able to get to that information. Voter ID, PAN card, Aadhaar card, driving license, marriage certificate, very important. If you have some kind of assets jointly with your spouse and you don't leave a marriage certificate, it is very difficult for the spouse to recreate it. And a lot of things are tied to a marriage certificate. Now, all of us who got married, had a certificate, you probably kept it somewhere and never cared to look at it. Great, you love your wife, you have a great marriage, excellent. But when you leave, it could become a problem if you don't have that. In one example we had to go and create a marriage certificate for a person because we don't know where it existed. And without that, we couldn't distribute the assets. We can't even close a bank account properly without that. And people in the US, you need social security card. I did the presentation originally for people in India, and then later on I've done many sessions like this for people in the US, particularly for NRIs. So I will cover some of the NRI related information also as part of the presentation to the extent possible. But I will go through and say what information is required for both people in the US as well as people in India as well. Other personal identity information, employee card, professional association, medical insurance card, divorce certificate. Unfortunately, if you are unfortunate to get divorced, please make sure you have a certificate because claims can come from people you cannot believe. When you leave this world, there are people who are waiting to make claims on your stuff. So divorce certificate is required. Otherwise, you can't prove that the person's claim is not valid. And believe me, this has happened where we had to go to court to restate the divorce proceedings, reinstate all the old documents to say this person does not have a claim to this property. So that's the kind of things that people will do. Believe me, people are waiting for opportunities, and you think it's not likely, not possible. Unfortunately, it does happen. So these things are important. So in case you don't want your spouse or your children to get tagged with all these issues, make sure you have the documents ready. Next thing, contact details. Very important. Very, very important. I'll give you an example. About 2 years ago, one of my neighbors, 80-year-old gentleman, he passed away. All his children are living overseas. We knew he had children. We don't know where they were and who they were. And when he passed away, just himself and his wife were at home. His wife was 78 years old. He was 84 years old. He literally dropped dead. Literally dropped dead. His wife was very shocked, obviously, right? She said, please inform my children. We have no idea where they were. And this gentleman has written the phone number for these people in a book which we couldn't trace where it was. Believe me, it took me a day, one full day, to find out how to inform these people. And finally, through some stroke of luck, we were able to find somebody else who had access to that information. So very simple, a very simple task of informing someone that your parent is not there took a day. You can easily avoid that. We just document that. Contact details of your spouse, your children, your siblings, in-laws, etc., all that. Particularly children. For people who are getting older, particularly for those whose children are overseas, it's very important to make sure you document them. Which the country code, city code, and the phone number. Don't just leave a number there. Which country they live in is also important to know. Contact details include landline numbers, mobile numbers, email and physical addresses. Other contact details you want to keep ready are your chartered accountant's number, your tax consultant's number, very important. Tax, in both US as well as in India, the statutory limitation of any tax audit is 10 years. So just in case after you leave there is a tax audit on your name, somebody has to know which person helped you with the taxes. So tax consultant is an important name. Primary care physician, extremely important, particularly when you are going to be sick and taken to the hospital. Your primary care physician will probably know a lot about you. If the spouse or the people taking care don't know that, it's very difficult to go and make treatment, because there are certain things that your primary care physician know about your mental condition which are critical for doing emergency services. So make sure you write down your primary care physician or doctor's name. Any specialist doctors you might be meeting, your advocate, very important, and your manager or MD in your office as well. Other contact details you want to maintain, your LIC agent and other private life insurance agents. I'll tell you a little bit about insurance and banking. I just read an article last year in the Economic Times. Guess the amount of money that is stuck in public sector banks only in India of unclaimed savings account and unclaimed deposit. Take a guess how much money it is in dollars. 48,500 crores just in public sector banks alone. You're talking about close to $6.5 billion US of unclaimed money. This is only banks. If you look at Life Insurance Corporation, that's double. So between these two organizations, you're talking about $18 billion of money that is left unclaimed. Why? Because people don't know you had something there. Like if you don't know if people don't know you have life insurance coverage, they're not going to claim it. So here you are, worked very hard in your life to make money and save money, and didn't tell people where you kept it, or you had an account, and that money goes to the government. RBI has recently started a new initiative of encouraging people to say, if the manager sees an account not being active, they're actually requiring bank managers to reach out to whoever they can to make them do something about it. That's how big the problem is, right? Think about it. $18 billion of money sitting out there unclaimed. Right? So make sure you write about all your financial consultant, financial advisor, etc. Will and trust executor. If you are smart enough to write a will or a trust, it's just not enough to have that, because your executor, every will has to have an executor. If you don't tell who the executor is, nobody will know that, right? Unless someone happens to see your will, in which case you write the executor's name there. If you don't have the will provided to someone, they can't guess. Without an executor, you cannot execute the will. The courts won't even accept probate without an executor's name in it. Okay? Medical information. Prescription of all medicines you're taking. You know, it's very important, because when you go and taken to a hospital for emergency or for any other preparation, if you are not able to give the information yourself, it's very important people to know. Why? Because certain type of medications act a certain way that the doctor who is treating you has to know what not to give you. It's very important. So make sure you write all the prescription medicines, any medical devices you have, online or pharmacy details, vaccination records. The most important, drug allergies. I'll tell you a story about drug allergy. Drug allergy is one of the most important you want to mention because recently one of the examples of a person in the US, the person had very, very severe pneumonia and went into coma actually because of that. They took the person to the hospital and the first instinct, the doctor gave penicillin. This person was allergic to penicillin. He died because of the penicillin. Anaphylactic shock caused because of the penicillin. You don't want to wreck your own life by not writing something. If you written this, doctors would have known. In an emergency, in a ER room, doctors don't have the time to ask all these questions. It's up to you to tell the information. So your loved ones, if they take them, if they are told this person is allergic to a certain medication, particularly penicillin and any anticonvulsants. Anticonvulsants are very important. They will cause anaphylactic shock if you are allergic to them. So make sure if you do know of any allergies, and by the way, there are ways to find out if you're allergic to them also. You can go to the hospitals and find there are tests available to tell you what medicines you're allergic to. These things did not exist 10, 20 years ago. Today we have the ability in the medical field to identify what medicines potentially you could be allergic to, so you can document them as well. So blood group, diet restrictions, any mental health conditions, very important because if you're doing any mental health therapy or any medication, a lot of these medications have a lot of drug interactions. So people, when they treat you for physical ailments, have to know what medicines you're taking for mental health also. It's very important to document that as well. Educational information, not as important, but still nevertheless it's important to document them. Your SSLC book, your mark sheets, your degree and diploma certificates. You know, a lot of us get jobs, most of them don't even ask what degree we have, but during some portions of the year when people want to look at your things, your children may be asked you what is your dad or mom's profession. So we need to make sure your degree and diploma certificates are maintained somewhere, somebody knows where it is. Other professional certifications, but more importantly, patent or IPR documents. If you filed a patent, if you have intellectual property rights on something, those documentations are critical to make a claim later. If you don't have them, somebody else can make the same claim as well. Okay, so make sure those documents, you keep them. Real estate information. A lot of us probably own, lease, lands, commercial land, residential land, etc. All that. A lot of information about that is with us. So sale agreements, rental lease agreements. When you are not in this world and let's say your property has to be disposed and distributed, you will need all these documents. The people who are going to distribute them will need all these documents. If you don't have these documents, it's very difficult to get them. So for example, sale deeds, sale agreements, patta documents. By the way, a sale agreement is not the same as a sale deed, not the same as a patta document. All three are important. A patta document actually establishes the real ownership of the land with you. A sale agreement is only saying that it is agreed to sell to two people. So patta is as important or more important. And if you don't have these documents, or if you have them and not told them where it is, then disposing the property in your absence will be a nightmare. We are going through this right now with one of my friends who passed away. He has a lot of properties. We don't know where the parent documents are. We don't know where the patta documents are. Going to the registrar office and trying to claim on behalf of a person who doesn't exist anymore. You can imagine, even if you exist, you go there, it's difficult to get those documents. If you're not even there, establishing that you actually are related to the person and you have the right to create the documents is really humongous amount of effort. So please make sure, even if you have property, create all these documents and keep them somewhere. So somebody who wants to dispose will have a much easier time. Encumbrance certificates is any approvals you have, particularly if you're buying land which is recently approved by CMD, other approval authorities. If you don't have the document, then the government can come and say you don't have approval. So you have to prove that you have the approval. No, they're not going to say you don't have the approval. It's up to you to prove. So make sure the documents are kept and maintained. Any homeowner association documents in the US. Also make sure if you have the real estate agent or real estate attorney, you maintain their names so that people know who to follow up with. Corporation tax document and receipts. Our governments are not very good at maintaining documents. If they say you haven't paid tax, it's up to you to prove you actually paid tax. So make sure that all those documents are maintained somewhere. Utilities and home security. This is another one in the US. Home security is interesting. In the US, people have these home security devices with passwords. In most houses, believe it or not, only one person knows the password. Imagine that the person goes away, tomorrow the house is locked, you can't unlock them without the password. Simple thing, right? It sounds very simple, but this could be a huge nightmare. They don't write it down somewhere. Legal information. Lots of information, legal status, advocate name, any ongoing or prior litigation. Amazing. People have cases on them or people having cases, they don't tell anybody else. If you have a case against you that is ongoing and if you don't tell anyone about that, that case doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. In some particular litigations, it also falls on the person who's still alive as well. You don't want to create a disservice to your family by leaving them on a court case as well. So make sure you document any ongoing or prior litigation documents. Even if you had a successful resolution of a past litigation, you need to make sure those documentations are maintained in case it comes up again. Power of attorney, very important. If you're going to have property, I think if you're not sure if you're going to be able to do some activity there, it is a good idea to issue a power of attorney so that at least somebody, in case you are sick, you're not able to make decisions, you're not able to do signatures, are not able to go to a registrar office, a power of attorney is very important. I think it's important for all of us to think about it and create a power of attorney. Legal hair certificates. If you owned property from your ancestors, for example, and you pass away, your family doesn't automatically get that property. Unless you have a legal hair certificate saying you are the legal heir of the person who left the property, they don't get the property. And these are all things that we don't think about. We think it's normal, easy. It is not, unfortunately. When you actually go to settling these things, you find there are incredible amount of paperwork you have to do and proofs you have to create. And each one of those things could take weeks and months. And imagine the amount of mental torture somebody has to go through when they have to do all these things, which could very easily be solved if each one of us takes a commitment to just spend a few weeks writing them down. That's my whole request to all the audience I presented, that this is not rocket science. And this doesn't take years of work. It is a matter of few weeks, maybe a month's worth of work. Collect all this information, keep them and tell someone where it is. It saves tremendous amount of pain, grief and agony. So this is what I'm going to repeat again and again. It will be very boring, but I keep repeating, please do it. I don't want to see any of my friends anymore and their families to suffer, because I have seen the suffering they go through. It is incredible, people. It is incredible. So please do some service to yourself and your family by document them. Any IOUs or promissory notes, please write them down. It doesn't go away when you go away. Somebody has to pay for that too. Tax information, last 10-year tax returns. The statute of limitation in this country and in other countries is 10 years. Your taxes can be audited by the tax authorities for up to 10 years. Which means you have to maintain not only a file tax form, but all the documents that went into creating the tax form also. If you claimed a certain deduction based on some documentation, if you are not able to produce a documentation, that means they're going to say it claimed it without any particular basis. So make sure you maintain all those things. Your PAN card, Social Security card, your income tax portal user. In the digital world of filing taxes, all of us have a portal ID and a password. In my case, my auditor has my portal ID and password. I make sure he has it so that he can do something about it. If you're not giving it to someone, please make sure you maintain that also. Any of the forms you have, GST registration, property tax, any overseas income tax. For those of us who are citizens of two countries, so US and India, or OCI card holders, it's very important that if you are living, this is very important, a lot of people don't know that. If you are a US resident or a US citizen, you are required to pay taxes on global income. And if you're a resident of India, you are required to pay taxes on global income. How many of you know that? How many of you know that? If you're a resident of India, let's say you have some money in a foreign country, Dubai, anywhere, you are required, not optional, you are required to disclose the income. So make sure that any overseas income tax documents are also maintained in that. Any wealth or inheritance tax or the gift tax documents, any outstanding tax notices also you need to maintain. Bank savings, can't say enough about it. Make sure you document all the different banks. You have a savings account, current account, fixed deposits, etc. all that. Make sure you also write down somewhere who's the bank manager. At least he can help you with some of the documentation. Account number, receipts, etc. all that. In all those accounts, at least in my case, I maintain every account in a joint holding pattern, either with my spouse or with my children, right? And you put this status as anyone a survivor. If you do joint, it's a problem. If you don't say anything, consider it single holding. So make sure in all your bank accounts, in all your investments, try and put as much as possible joint account status with a anyone or survivor condition. So in this case, if you have a joint account, you are not there anymore, the person who is a joint account holder can actually operate the account seamlessly from day one. If you don't have that, then it takes quite a bit of effort. And I'll tell you, banks and government and private companies do not have any sympathy. They do not care. When you are in trouble, you want to go and help, they do not help you. I'm telling you honestly, they'll say, rule is a rule. And the amount of time you have to go and beg and plead these people to help someone. See, when these people are alive, the bank manager will come to you running, asking for deposits. When you're gone, they don't come to you, you have to go to them. And when you go to them to get all this documentation, if you have this condition with joint, not a joint condition or no mention of anyone a survivor, it is very difficult to get all those things reinstated. So please make sure you use joint conditions as much as possible. Okay. Also, with non-banking financial companies, any non-banking financial dealers, you have to maintain all the documents for that, and any credit union accounts as well. The next one is credit card. All of us carry credit, debit, and ATM cards. And a credit card is an interesting one. Not only you have credit card has to be closed when you go away in the world. If you have any additional cards issued, and I have issued credit cards to my relatives when they go to the US, etc. If they continue using the card, listen to this. If they continue using your credit card after you're gone, it is illegal. It's illegal. You could be in serious trouble if you do not cancel the credit card of a deceased person and somebody is using the card you issued yourself, not illegal. You actually give a card to someone, joint card, and if that person continues to use the card, it is illegal everywhere in the world. Okay, so make sure you write down who you're giving the card to so somebody can actually cancel the card. Right? These things you don't think about. When it becomes a problem, it becomes a big problem. And the amount of time it takes to settle these cases with the banks or the credit card companies, very, very long. Very, very painful. We went through this recently, and that case went for several months with a bank issuing bank loans in the US. And the person was carrying the card and using it in India. And for us to go and prove that the card was issued by the person who died legitimately, and this person did not know the person has died and using the card, proving all that takes quite a bit of effort. Okay? So, credit cards, all of stuff, debit cards, ATM cards, all are the same. Next topic, financial investments, mutual funds, PMS, etc. In all countries, both in the US, India, anywhere in the world, mutual funds have a way for you to identify and register upfront what happens when you're not there. Not just nomination. Nomination is only one of the main things. There are other ways of you can register in the mutual fund companies what should happen or what you would like to happen when you're gone. So nomination is good, not enough. It is necessary but not sufficient. In some financial instruments, nomination is not sufficient. It's only necessary, not sufficient. So you want to make sure you check with all your mutual fund organizations to say, what should I do? And there is a very clear defined procedure with all mutual fund companies all over the world to say what you should do in the case you are not there. Okay? Stock brokerage accounts. Crypto assets. Lately, a lot of people having cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, etc. All that. NFTs. One of the recent people who I helped who passed away, he had a bunch of NFTs bought through some broker in between or some exchange. We didn't know about that. Accidentally, we trampled upon that and found out the guy has NFTs worth several thousands of dollars. We didn't know. So, if you have any crypto assets, make sure you document them. Bank safety locker is another area where we keep a lot of stuff in bank lockers, right? Gold, silver, documents, etc. All that. If people don't know what locker you're using or where the key is, problem. Make sure you document that as well. Tax-free government bonds, sovereign government bonds, etc. Anyone who is a startup investor, angel investor, you need to make sure you have the term sheet, you have all the SHAs ready because tomorrow if you want to liquidate that, you will need all those documents as well. Okay, so term sheet, SHA, SPA, etc. Any foreign bank accounts you might have. A lot of us who lived abroad and came back to India may still have accounts in foreign countries. You want to make sure you document this as well. And any foreign mutual fund or stock you might have as well. Loans and financial liabilities, any outstanding loans. You don't want to leave your loved ones with the liability after you leave by having loans that are not paid for because these loans don't go away. When you go, they don't go away, unfortunately. So you need to make sure that you provide necessary resolution possibilities for those loans as well. Could be personal loan, loans against provident fund, loans against FDs, home loans, property loans, automobile loans, education loans, medical loan, hire purchase agreements, lease agreements, all of the above. I want to make sure that all these documents and all this information is maintained somewhere so that somebody can handle it. Any bill and paid subscriptions. Paid subscription is really a real dog, I tell you, because somebody leaves a paid subscription not having, they keep charging you continuously. Particularly if you have a credit card, charge the credit card also on top of that. And if you haven't canceled the credit card, they'll charge the credit card and the penalty on top of that as well. So these are all things that could become a problem if you don't handle them properly. So make sure you write down somewhere what are the regular monthly payments you're making. I am a little bit anal about this, and I maintain my financial record for the last 37 years. Every single day, every single month, I spend everything. I have all the information in Excel spreadsheet, every one of them. So I can tell you what bills I paid 10 years ago. Now the trouble with that is that data is very useful. I look through and see what the actual inflation is. You know, our government, any government, publishes inflation information, which is basically rubbish. I'll tell you, it's really rubbish. I can tell you for the lifestyle that most of us live, the inflation that is actually in effect is higher, again repeat, higher than what is published. I can prove it to you because I have numbers for the last 37 years. I tell you what my expenditure was, and after accounting for all the one-time charges and charges, I can tell you just regular consumption articles, the basket of regular consumption articles tells you what the inflation is. It is higher, repeat, higher than what the government publishes. So make sure when you're planning your future retirement plan, do not assume an inflation rate that is given to you by anyone. Okay, it is higher. Because if your inflation assumptions are lower than what the reality is, you'll end up with a lot less money. You think you need a lot less money, which will be a problem. Okay? Nothing against any government, by the way, nothing. Insurance information, life insurance, obviously. If you have taken life insurance, particularly term insurance or whole life insurance, please tell someone you have it, have the policy number, duration, etc., all that. If you have regular payments to make for the insurance, then make sure it's all done. Don't keep any outstanding. If you have premiums that are not paid, the claims become very tricky, extremely tricky. And life insurance companies, like any other company, isn't terribly worried about being sympathetic at that point in time. Okay, so health insurance also. Any home insurance you might have for your home, any automobile insurance you might have, any long-term disability you have. I don't know if there are a lot of details of this in the US. I'm not sure how it works in India, but long-term disability is where, in case you are not well and you're not able to make decisions, there are schemes available from the government and private organizations to provide you income during that time. This might be something you need to tell people who are taking care of you. Home and rental insurance and Medicare and Medicaid. Physical assets. All of us have physical assets. Cars, two-wheelers, jewelry, precious metals, expensive electronic items. You have to make a list of what you have. Somebody has to figure out who's going to take them. First of all, you have to know where it exists, first of all. So make sure if you have a lot of expensive electronic items, make sure somebody knows about them or make a list of them. High-value artworks, paintings, murals, musical instruments, books, etc., etc. You see in the table here, tangible assets and non-tangible assets. Both are important. Both are important to be documented. Further, cameras, smartwatches, expensive dress, physical photos and photo albums. We take a lot of photos, create a lot of albums. Sometimes we have in physical form, some in digital form. If you don't tell someone where it is or have the password for wherever it is stored, completely useless. You lose them. These are all memories from 30, 40, 50 years. You don't want to lose them after trying so hard to maintain them. So make sure you tell the location and place for the storage of this information. Stamp collections, foreign currency collections, etc. Employment information, your company name, designation, years and service, etc., etc. Why it is important? I'll tell you another example of a friend of mine who was working in a very large US corporation, doing very well at a very senior level, had stock options worth millions of dollars. And he left the company, went to another company. That options is still there and vested. No one knew. Millions of dollars. If we hadn't found out accidentally that that option was there, that money would have gone to somebody else. Stock options are very important. You have to make sure somebody knows about them. So, provident fund details, gratuity details, stock options, stock purchase plans, stock warrants, etc., etc., all that. Pension plans. In the US, there is a scheme called 401k, which allows you to put money during your working time for retirement, tax-free, and you get the money after you turn 58 and a half years. So, you need to make sure you mention someone where this money is and how it is stored, and any employee medical insurance coverage you might have. Any LTA details, expense accounts, company credit card, very, very important. See, actually a personal credit card, when you go away, you can find some time. In a company issued credit card, the company has to remember you have a credit card. If they don't cancel it, you continue, the card is alive and someone uses the card, the company is liable. You don't want your company to be upset at you after you leave this world, right? And they can hold off on your 401k or on your things along with that. So make sure that you document those things as well. I think a lot of people carry a company credit card. Make sure that information is known to someone. payroll and direct deposit bank details, any employer provided documents, LTIPs, deferred taxation, VCP, etc., all that. If you're a business owner and entrepreneur, then you need to make sure that all your company documents are kept in some place. To close a business in this country is far more difficult than opening a business in this country. And if you are not there, double the difficulty. Right? To close a business itself, you are alive and you're doing yourself is difficult. If you are not there and close the business is even more difficult. So all these documents will be at least essential to have a chance of doing a closure. If you don't have them, only gets worse. So article association, TAN number, PAN number, share certificates, term sheets, etc., all that. Digital assets, new category. I know many of you have probably many different kinds of accounts and passwords. I actually counted how many passwords I have. 338 passwords. 338 passwords is what I counted, whatever I can remember. Emails, ATM pins, credit card pins, etc. 338 passwords. I'm sure all of you will have many hundreds, I'm very sure. If you don't write them down somewhere, you won't know yourself. First, there are many good, nifty apps available with reasonable protection. Nothing is fully protected, by the way, nothing. With reasonable protection, many different tools are available at very, very little cost. Keep them, write them down, right? People say some things are secure. I'll tell you this, I lost my mobile phone 6 months ago. Somebody swiped the phone from a running train, believe me. I thought I'll leave it there and report. I was told, if you lose your mobile phone, it is required, not optional, it is required to go and file an FIR in a police station. How many of you knew that? If you don't do that, and somebody were to use the phone for purposes not intended, you are criminally liable. Criminally, not civil, criminal liability. You have to go and report that you lost a phone to a police station and get what is called a CSR. If you don't have that. So, what I would say is that when I talked to this person about my lost phone, they said that we'll try and trace it. I told them my phone is very good, very expensive phone, a lot. The guy said, sir, simple. Give me any phone in the world, I'll break it now. I said, how about Apple phones? Apple, orange, banana, doesn't matter. People in this country can break any phone. So, keeping information in the phone is also dangerous. But at least try and keep it in some other safe place. Don't keep it in the phone. Right? Keep it somewhere where you can at least retrieve it, etc. All that. Just side information for you about phone loss. I wrote a blog about that actually because the amount of effort to go and report that a phone is lost. The guy said, where is it lost? I said, I don't know. How and where it lost? Right? He said, where exact location where it lost? I don't know. I lost it. That's why I don't know. No, tell me which place you lost. Because the jurisdiction of who has to handle the loss depends on where you lost it. So I lost it in the railway station. He said, in that case, it should be railway police that handled it. So, side information about not related to this thing. So, passwords are important. Home computer password, please. If you have information in home computer, congratulations. Please tell someone what the password is for that. Without that, they can't get into the computer. Similarly, with a mobile phone, right? All personal email accounts, work accounts, social media accounts, Instagram accounts, etc., net banking, online banking, credit card pins, ATM pins. The reason I'm putting all this information here is for you to have the memory that when you go through the document, you'll know what all to keep because these things don't immediately come to you. So what I did is when I was going through helping people with all these problems, I actually wrote them down. So at least it'll create some sort of a checklist, maybe not complete, at least something to start with where you can start using that. This presentation will be given to you. Again, I request you, I beg you, please take this list, start creating your own documents today. You don't want to leave people in your family in the lurch. So please take this list and start creating these things. It is not rocket science. Crypto wallets and crypto exchange account passwords. Digital wallets, GPay, Paytm, PhonePe, those things can be misused if you're not careful. Cloud storage accounts. Keep all the information in Amazon Web Services or in Google Drive and you don't give the password, it's as good as not getting it. Online phone storage, online purchase apps, mobile phone apps, etc. Retirement accounts. Provident fund details, amount, beneficiaries, gratuity, annuities, etc., etc. In the US, we have both 401k and what is called individual retirement accounts, IRAs, private retirement accounts. Make sure those information is maintained because these IRAs have certain conditions attached to them. If you have mentioned some man in the 401k or IRA, that will supersede your will. You know that? If you have a will saying information has to go here, if the IRA or the 401k document has a different nomination name or a different percentage distribution per nominee, that will supersede your will. Interesting, I didn't know that actually. The guy said that your will is useless at that point. This will supersede. If you have a nominee information in your 401k or IRA account where you said, I want these things, that information will supersede any information related to that in your will. You write a will, says, I want to distribute the money this way. That is not applicable. If the 401k and the IRA have a nomination, that will supersede what is there in the will. Yeah. 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 I did not know that. I thought will would be an end all be all, but will is not an end all be all document. Interesting. Any retirement accounts, that's what I found. The retirement account particularly. In the case of mutual fund, etc., it still can apply, but anything that is not mentioned, if you don't have any will, what they call dying intestate, then whole different set of things happen after that. Right? So IRAs, Social Security, etc. Organ donation, another important area. One of my neighbors recently passed away, and apparently he had mentioned in some passing comment to one of his sons that I want my body to be donated to a hospital for research. Wonderful idea, excellent idea, but it's a small problem. There is a big process behind that. In India, there is an Organ Donation Act passed in 1950, which explicitly states what you have to do to donate your eyes, your organs, and your body. If you don't register it when you are alive yourself, somebody else can donate on your behalf, but that person has to get the necessary consent from all the what they call the stage 1 legal heirs. In other words, if let's say you pass away and your spouse decide to donate your body, if your son or daughter don't agree, that can become a litigation. So if you want to avoid that, you could actually do a registration of your whole body, eye, liver, kidney, etc., all that in a nice little document. That way nobody has to decide anything. Right? That's very important to do. In my case, I can tell you, my mom and dad passed away in the last 10 years. I donated the eyes of them. They didn't leave any information. So I decided to donate, and I asked my sister. They said, okay. It's very important. It's very useful because when you donated the eye, a few months later, I got a letter from Shankar saying, your father's eyes has given vision to someone. Imagine how cool it is, right? Somebody is actually able to get a vision from your donation, which is going to go nowhere. So I would recommend to all of you, as part of this little mission, that please consider donating your eyes of the loved one who lives in this country. Similarly, please consider donating blood. Because I'm a blood donor for the last 30 years. I can tell you the amount of blood requirement in this country has gone up. Post-COVID, there is a tremendous shortage of blood. Tremendous shortage of blood. Lots of lives are lost unnecessarily because of want of blood. And blood donation, get this, is actually a healthy thing. It helps you have better health. Every one of us can donate blood at least twice a year. At least twice a year. So consider donating blood, please. So organ donations, tissue donations, what kind of funeral you want to have, traditional funeral or a different kind of funeral. You can even write your own obituary, what you want to come out as an obituary as well. Estate planning, last will and testament, how, when, who, what gets your property and assets. Advanced healthcare directives. This is a phenomenon in the US. It is also coming in India, not completely yet. What this says is that you can say in this particular document, which is a legally written document, what kind of treatment you want or don't want. Something called DNR. I don't know about DNR. Do not resuscitate. In case you are not able to breathe, you could say legally, I do not want to be resuscitated. A doctor has to necessarily comply with that. He cannot overrule that. The relative cannot overrule that. This is important because some people say, I don't want to be a liability when I'm not well. You can actually legally enforce that with a DNR. So make sure if you're interested in doing some of this, don't think, just say someone, or write in a paper, it doesn't matter. You have to do it in a legal way. So advanced healthcare directives is very important. And finally, living trust. You don't necessarily have to have the stuff in a trust when you go away. When you're alive, you can put it in a trust. Having a trust versus a will is a big decision. There are lots of factors come in the way of will versus trust. It is not that one is better than the other. In some cases, both may be required. Okay, so will or a trust, I wouldn't want to spend too much time because that's a very complex topic. An estate planner can help you decide that. But just because you have a will doesn't mean trust is not important or vice versa. Okay. Finally, designation of a guardian for your minor children, for your living parents, your dependents, for your pets. If you don't specify who's going to take care of your dependents, then nobody else can make a decision on your behalf. So make sure you write those information in a document as well. And finally, power of attorney for both financial power of attorney and a medical power of attorney. That's all I had. Questions? I hope it is useful. I felt that now this information is required to be told. It may not be very easy to understand all this right now, but please make sure you read the document when you leave and then start doing the work yourself. Trust me, people, it saves tremendous amount of pain. It saves tremendous amount of pain to people. Do them a favor when you leave the world. They shouldn't be cursing you. They should be praising you. So make it easy for them to deal with your loss. Thank you very much.
Okay, Vish, thank you. Wonderful. The list of items just kept going on and on. I think I have a project for the next 3 months to assemble all that stuff, maybe 6 months. 4 months. Okay, I have some questions here for you.
Yeah.
What would be the correct age for commencing end-of-life planning?
How about now? I think, a lot of information we keep about ourselves from very early age. And I think people who finish studies and go for work, I would say at the very early you should do after college, when you leave college and go to employment. Until then, probably you don't have very much responsibilities or any more accountabilities. I would say earliest you can start is after you graduate. Definitely do it when you have a family. When you get married, when you have children, any life event that happens to you after college would be a great time to start doing this. They say that retirement planning should start when you start earning money. Most of us don't do that, because we don't know what it is. But similar to retirement planning, this should happen as soon as you have a significant life event like getting a job.
So that was from Mr. Madhavan Vellore. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Mr. Kishore Lal from Chennai asks, who should I share my end-of-life plan with? My wife, my children, any other close friends, relatives? Who can I talk to in my family?
Sorry, I don't know who your family is. I can't make a decision on that. I would think a spouse might be a very good first choice. Probably a spouse and children would be a good choice. The reason I'm saying spouse and children is because there are possibilities, and this does happen unfortunately, where both husband and wife could be gone at the same time in an accident.
Yeah.
This has happened as well in the past. So I would say at least leave it with at least 2 or 3 people. Your spouse and children would be best answer, I think. Assuming you have a spouse who understands you, is okay with you, and children who want to live with you. Or at least a sibling or a friend. Friend generally is good, I think, because you have some very good friends, you can leave it with them. They don't have any vested interest in you. So maybe a friend would be also a good choice.
So my own addition to that question. You see in these movies, you see a grizzled old lawyer calling all the heirs and opening their will and so on and so forth. Does that happen in real life or is it only in movies?
No, it doesn't happen that way. It happens much worse actually. What happens when the person leaves the world is that, for a while people don't know what to do. They're all sitting and figuring out how to do. When it comes to figuring out what to do with the person's assets, everybody is asking, does the person have a will? And the problem is that nobody knows the person has a will. They don't know the answer. What happens in that case? Somebody has to initiate the process to go to court. Obviously, the person who thinks the beneficiary will take it to court, right? It's a spouse or children. When you go to court, there is a long probate process in the absence of a will that has to be done by the judge. So it doesn't happen in the middle of the hall with people sitting around. It happens in a court, actually. And you need some really good, qualified lawyers who are specialized in this to work with you. Because if the other party has a better lawyer than you, you're screwed. So you want to make sure you get a good lawyer who is experienced in this legal probate matters. And we have gone through this difficulty also recently where we had to find a very good lawyer to make sure that this process happens smoothly.
So an add-on question to that again. If you have assets in different jurisdictions, do you need separate wills or is one big catch-all will?
Good question. If you have assets within the same country, no problem. If you have assets within one country, generally speaking, your will is sufficient. Unless it's a territory which is not part of the main country like Jammu and Kashmir, then I think you have a separate rule for that. But otherwise, within India, it's only one jurisdiction. If you have assets in different countries, very good idea to have 2 separate wills, because the problem is the kind of laws that govern the liquidation and the inheritance in other countries is very different. Simple example I'll tell you. Gifting, right? People give gifts to each other, right? Gift laws in the US and India are exact opposite. In the US, the person who is gifting has to pay taxes. If I gift to my daughter who lives in the US, I, as a gifter, has to pay taxes. In India, it's the reverse. The person who gets the gift has to pay taxes. So, because of these kinds of various rules, inheritance also is very determined by the local laws in each country. I know that US is far more clear in inheritance laws. In India, it's not as clear. It is getting clearer. The Hindu Succession Act, which was passed in 1956, got changed or modified, amended in 2005. Big change they made. Till 2005, Hindu Succession Act, which covered Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, said that a girl child, a female child, is not entitled to the same rights as a male child. In inheritance, they call what is called co-parceners and members. Co-parceners are only the male members of the family. So, if my father and mother had some inheritance from me, I have more rights than my sister. My wife has more rights than my sister.
Oh, wow.
By virtue of being wife of a co-parcener. Interesting. In 2005, there was a case in Supreme Court. Supreme Court made the government change the laws to say, from 2005 onwards, every child of the person enjoys equal right. So a girl child in the family has exactly the same co-partner rights as a male child in the family. And this applies to inheritance happened before the law was passed. In case 2003 something happened, the girl child can go back and claim inheritance for that. It's a very interesting forward-looking law that India passed in 2005. It's important to know that because when it comes to inheritance, the Hindu Succession Act is reasonably clear but not crystal clear. There are many different variations. If the ancestral property that your dad is giving came from his ancestors, if it came from his father, there is one rule. If it came from his mother's side, different rule. Interesting.
Vish, lots of questions. Let's
So, think about
finish
that.
them off. So, Nidhi Sharma from Bangalore asked, death is an emotional subject in India. What is the best way to broach the topic and convey the plan to family members? Will it cause embarrassment?
Yes, definitely it's not a very pleasant topic. I can agree with that part. I think it's important to talk about it because it's going to happen anyway. It's not that you're going to avoid something that doesn't happen. If you're going to know it's going to happen anyway, it's might as well plan for it. It is a difficult topic, I agree. It's also an emotional topic. People don't want to talk about that. I have tried to talk to my wife about life insurance and she doesn't want to listen to me. I finally told her you have to listen one day. It is important. I would say that, if it is uncomfortable, let's deal with it. Let's just talk about it and nothing to be embarrassed about. I don't know what kind of embarrassment you can possibly have. If you have a lot of litigation and a lot of liabilities that people don't know about, it could be a problem. But better to deal with it than not deal with it is my opinion.
Yeah. Chintamani from Chennai says, I can make a plan, but I can't ensure that it's actually carried out because I'll not be there. What's the point making a plan when there is no guarantee of it being implemented?
If it is a will or a trust, or if it's end of life plan, today there is no way to register the document. There is no provision available in the government to register the document. So the only way is to document that. If you really want to be very careful, you could actually have it signed with a witness and notarize it. If you sign with a witness and notarize it, it's as good as being registered in the government. There is no registration, but you can do that. You can write the form, get it signed with a witness and notarize it.
I think his question deals with more executor and the role of the executor in ensuring that it's
Yes. There is no specific executor capability in an end of life plan. In a will and a trust, you have that. You could probably mention that as part of your document. There is no official way of establishing that. I would think maybe you can mention in the end of life planning that I hereby authorize this person to execute something like that and make that registered along with the notarized public would be a best possible way given this condition.
Can an end of life plan change over time?
Absolutely,
if
yes.
it changes, will it result in misgiving?
No, absolutely change. It's very important not just to write a plan, but to maintain the plan as well, because when you write the plan, you may have certain conditions. Things could change. What I recommend there is that, much like a will or a trust, should probably visit it periodically, maybe once a year, depending on how complex it is. Because if your conditions are going to change and the plan is not keeping up with that, it'll be a problem. Definitely be a problem. So you need to definitely maintain it. I would say maybe once a year, just look at it, because to create the plan will take you several weeks or months. To maintain the plan shouldn't take more than a few days, I would think. So definitely worth maintaining it every year.
So Mr. Nathan has asked pretty much similar question, embarrassment to family and so on, which has been addressed. So I'll park this. What happens if you don't have an end-of-life plan? See, there are two parts, as you pointed out. One is the will and trust, etc., which deals with financial assets by and large, and then a broader end-of-life plan to deal with other matters. So let's address both of them separately.
So will and trust, obviously, it deals with only a material assets, etc., all that. If you don't have end-of-life plan, then your immediate family has to make decisions on your behalf. Can be done, it's not, cannot be done, but it's going to result in a lot of litigation, a lot of difficulty, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of problems. In some cases, you may not even know what is there. You will never know if it is completed, because there could be things you haven't found out yet. As I told you, in the case of my friends, in some cases, we've been doing it for months, and in some cases, years. We still don't think we covered all of them. So not having a plan will result in a lot more difficulties for your family. A lot more things can be lost forever. So definitely not something I would take a chance with, for sure.
Mr. Alexander from Pondicherry asked, you've been in the USA for many years. It's believed that family bonds are stronger in India. How do you perceive end-of-life planning in USA being different than in India?
That's a very difficult question to answer. I don't want to make any moral judgments on people living in different countries. It is generally true, I will say this much, it's generally true that family ties are stronger in India. Generally true, or generally used to be true. I don't know anymore at this point. It is generally true. I think that, as I told you, right, in the US, for what it's worth, things are a lot more formal. There is a process for everything. So you have the ability and the choice to create a process which is very well established, everything. So to avoid this lack of belonging, lack of love, if you will, there are processes to make for it. In India, we don't have that many clear processes. So that is why these kinds of things, end-of-life planning is important to make sure that those ambiguities and the things are not covered. So I would definitely say write it down and do that. I wouldn't necessarily say it's better or worse. My daughters live in the US, my wife lives here. I have a plan in both countries. I have a will in both countries. I want to make sure that whatever happens in India stays in India, what happens in the US stays in the US, and I have separate plans for that.
Makes sense. Last question. Ms. Janaki, teacher. Can you summarize maybe 3 bullet points, all that you've said so far?
Just do it.
So, 1 bullet point, not 3.
One I would say that definitely start doing it. Don't postpone it. This is not something you want to postpone. I know it's a little bit hard to focus on it, and it might be a little overwhelming in the beginning, because you yourself probably don't know what all you have. So it's better to start doing it incrementally. Don't expect that you know everything upfront. So start slow, but continue doing it. Try to finish it as much as possible. Most important, tell someone where it is. That's the most important part, I would say that. But just do it is what I would say as the closing shot on that.
And I think your presentation is an admirable checklist. I think that will cover 99% of people out there. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I would like to get feedback from you. You can either send it to MMA or you can send it to me, because what I want to do is to try and improve this presentation for other people also in the future. So if you could please give me feedback on what is missing, what can be added, I would love it, because this presentation is a living document which is evolving every time. I have done 6 sessions so far, and I have 2 more coming in the future as well. So far, more than 10,000 people have listened to the presentation over the last 3 months. 10,000. I have one coming up in May, which is supposed to have 5,000 people attending it. And I'm surprised, because this is not rocket science. What I'm saying is nothing new or nothing unknown, but people don't pay attention to that. So this effort is only to create the awareness, not to teach anyone anything. I'm not teaching anyone or pontificating or lecturing to you, just making you aware of that. So please send me feedback. I can improve this document for the purpose of others as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I think all the viewers watching, thanks so much. In fact, I was just reading a nice quote. He said, Confucius said, we have 2 lives. The second begins when you realize you have only one. So better make your will, because very, very useful. Thank you so much. And the presentation is available. It's already available in our YouTube and thing. If anybody wants, give me a mail ID, we'll share it with you. And thank you. Akira, can you just join on stage? The President Moment on behalf of Shankar, can you just do a step forward to the Come.
Thank you very much.
Wow, very nice. By the way, today I joined MMA as well as a member.
Oh, fantastic. Today.
Amazing what they do here. Four events in 4 days. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Best hour and a half that I was.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you tomorrow again, same place, same time. Another interesting talk. Good night.